Hello everyone, my name is Treasure Rucker and today I am going to be talking about improving performance, specifically effective strategies to build concentration and optimal performance. Concentration refers to focusing on sensory or mental events coupled with mental effort. It relates primarily to the selective attention dimension in which individuals are able to selectively process some sources of information while ignoring others. Listed are the four parts of what it means to have concentration in sports exercise settings, according to Weinberg and Gold. Here's how concentration connects to optimal performance. Concentration is an underlying skill of performance which is often neglected by athletes and coaches. It separates the good athletes from the great ones, and in my opinion, building concentration is building optimal performance. Researchers comparing successful and less successful athletes have consistently found that attentional control is an important discriminating factor. Some have argued, like me, that peak performers have developed exceptional concentration abilities appropriate to their sport. The purpose of my presentation today is to provide you with effective skills that enhance concentration, which will get your athletes to perform at optimal performance or peak capacity. This topic applies to sport and exercise psychology because concentration is all about mental effort and the mental capacities of an athlete. Concentration has the ability to affect optimal performance in a positive way, and without it comes some consequences. Here's how. Positively, athletes describe themselves as being absorbed in the present and having no thoughts about the past or the future, being mentally relaxed and having a high degree of control, and being in a state of awareness of both their own bodies and the external environment. This is what takes their performance to the next level. And this is somewhat what Tiger Woods described. I did have a video, but you won't be able to hear it, so I'm just going to describe the video to you. He says his secret weapon is the cocoon of concentration. With all of his distractions and things that occupy his life outside of sports, he speaks on his efforts to make it back to the Masters tournament and explains why concentration is crucial to his game. Negatively, with lack of concentration or concentrating on the wrong things like fear of losing or failing, it increases pressure, which reduces your flexibility to shift your attentional focus. This results in things like impaired timing and coordination, fatigue, muscle tension, and poor decision making. This brings me to how my topic applies to my kinesiology career choice of athletic training. Being informed on this topic can be very useful to an AT because they work to ensure athletes are equipped with everything they need to perform at the best of their abilities. This should definitely include skills to enhance concentration because without it, it could lead to injuries that could have possibly been avoided with a little more focus. Why should you care? Because all of you are involved in sports and exercise in some way. As a great researcher, practitioner, or professional, you should want to see your athletes perform at peak capacity. To do this, you must update your skills to educate them on what it takes to improve overall performance. I wanted to touch on this issue since the number of athletes with ADHD continue to rise. ADHD, or attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, is a mental health disorder that can cause above normal levels of hyperactive and impulsive behaviors. People with ADHD may also have trouble focusing their attention on a single task or sitting still for long periods of time. So you can see how this diagnosis poses the question, can athletes with ADHD still perform as well as others in other sports, especially when it comes to concentration? I believe the answer is yes, they can perform as well or even better than others. This article, What's Up with Athletes in ADHD, highlights elite athletes with ADHD like Simone Biles, Michael Phelps, and Michael Jordan. I thought this issue was important and needed to be shared with others because I believe sports should be non-discriminatory. People should participate in things they enjoy, and at the end of the day, there is always room for improvement. Now I'm going to talk about the psychological impact of this topic. Concentration has a positive influence on self-perception in a way that it increases self-confidence. Ultimately, by concentrating well, an athlete takes in the information necessary to make good decisions, such as responding to an opponent or adapting to the environment. Athletes who concentrate well make good decisions within a competitive environment and develop overall self-confidence. On the other hand, poor concentration leads to more mistakes, and an athlete will add more pressures on themselves as they perceive they are failing, getting negative crowd responses, and increased anxiety emotional states. When looking at motivation, because focusing on personal performance provides greater control, individuals become more motivated and persist longer in the face of failure. Concentrating on yourself and improving your performance increases motivation in a positive way. Players are more likely to achieve goals, which will be interpreted in their way as achieving success and will help develop a task orientation mindset. A task goal orientation focuses on comparing performance with professional standards in personal improvement. But lack of a motivation has a negative influence on concentration. If an individual is not motivated, it is difficult to maintain concentration as the mind is likely to wander. Irrelevant thoughts can occur simply because a performer may not believe it is necessary to focus. This extra mental space is quickly filled by thoughts of irrelevant cues, which in turn will hurt performance. Now we are going to look into strategies to help increase concentration and its effect on cooperation and competition. According to Weinberg and Gold, cooperation has been defined as a social process through which performance is evaluated and rewarded in terms of the collective achievements of a group of people working together to reach a particular goal. This means that every or a majority of the players on the team must be at the top of their game to contribute and help the group win, and if they are not, this has the potential to hurt the team dynamic and or performance during competition. So strategies like replicating game-like situations in practice, which we will go into depth later, positive self-talk, and setting performance and process goals all have been proven to enhance concentration. And when concentration is controlled amongst players individually, it will benefit the whole. Upon my research, I would say that one of the highly mentioned strategies to improve concentration was positive self-talk. To go along with our learning this far, I'm going to talk about this article by corresponding Naja Walter. This article examines junior athletes before and after they undergo or do not undergo a positive self-talk intervention program, which reveals the possible effects of positive self-talk on their performance, competitive anxiety, volitional skills, and self-efficacy. The self-talk that was developed in this study is understood as goal-directed and self-determined. For the procedure, first the participants completed a questionnaire that measured their personal view on each of the dependent variables. They were blindly randomized into one of the three groups: short-term intervention, long-term intervention, or the control group. The short-term self-talk intervention was 1 week and included 3 60-minute sessions, while the long-term self-talk intervention was 8 weeks with 3 20-minute sessions per week. After the self-talk training program was complete, all participants again completed a questionnaire of the dependent variables. The interventions taught athletes things like the mechanisms of self-talk, breath control strategies, self-talk to remain focused on performance details, and how to develop their own self-talk. The study was measured through a variety of scales and questionnaires. In conclusion, self-talk intervention influenced state somatic anxiety, state self-confidence, self-efficacy, self-optimization, and rate of performance. It had no effect on cognitive state anxiety and 3 of the 4 volitional skills: self-impediment, lack of energy, and loss of focus. However, it is important to note that the 3 volitional skills that were unaffected could be due to the fact that the questions on the questionnaire were worded negatively, with words such as lose, unmotivated, dislike, or exhausting. And after an intervention program of positive self-talk, these words caused an answering bias of social desirability. Nonetheless, this does not denote self-talk as an effective strategy to improve concentration and or performance. This article definitely shows that there are benefits in introducing and teaching positive self-talk strategies to our athletes. Now I'm going to get into PST. Emotional factors such as the pressure of competition often play a critical role in creating internal sources of distractions, and we often hear the word choking to describe an athlete's poor performance under pressure. Authors Weinberg and Gold give a practical application of this. Jana Novotná was serving at 4-1 in the third set of the 1933 Wimbledon finals against Steffi Graf and was 1 point away from a seemingly insurmountable 5-1 lead, but she proceeded to miss an easy volley, later served 3 consecutive double faults, and hit some wild shots, allowing Graf to come back to win 6-4. Many consider Wimbledon the most prestigious tournament to win, and thus the pressure for Novotná was extremely high. This is why the topic of enhancing concentration to improve performance, especially in tough situations, is significant, and practitioners can utilize these strategies as well as the PST interventions I am about to explain to prevent situations like this from happening. We are going to look at some of the best practices on how to reduce the internal destructive anxiety, which includes effective ways to enhance concentration during high pressure situations. The internal distractor of anxiety should be reduced because excess anxiety and pressure can increase distraction and reduce attentional focus, increase things like negative emotion and muscle tension. The PST I'm introducing is a multimodal anxiety reduction technique known as pressure training. Pressure training consists of specific strategies to create and expose athletes to pressure in practice so that they are better able to cope with pressure in actual competition. Weinberg and Gold revealed that the coaches work to replicate three things. The first being demands of training, which includes task stressors, which are time constraints and equipment manipulation, performer stressors like sabotaging the warm up or restricting preparation time and tactical information, and then environmental stressors like weather or noise manipulations, such as a loud crowd. Coaches should also create environments where athletes receive positive or negative consequences based on how they perform, which brings us to the consequences of training. First, there are forfeit stressors where athletes have the potential to receive something negative, such as a physical punishment. Next are reward stressors, which include gaining access to a service like selection to play or to start. And then judgment stressors, which include being judged or evaluated by others, such as coaches or teammates. And lastly, the most important step is coaches explaining how to cope with these high pressure situations through information provision, which is the initial stage of providing information regarding stress, skill acquisition, which are specific skills required to maintain effective performance in a stress environment, and lastly, application and practice, which are skills practiced under simulated conditions that approximate the real world environment. In the article Choking Interventions in Sports, authors Gropel and Masagno test three different interventions to see which one would provide a benefit to performance under pressure. Based on the results, the techniques I just described indicated positive effects for self-consciousness and anxiety training. This helps us to see that there is influence of these strategies on reducing anxiety and increasing concentration. So as we near the end of this presentation, I want to leave you all kinesiology professionals with a message. Colossians 3:12 through 13 reads, "Since God chose you to be the holy people you, he loves, you must clothe yourselves with tender-hearted mercy, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. Make allowance for each other's faults and forgive anyone who offends you." I just want you to keep in mind that as an authority or teacher in many athletes or exercisers' lives, when engaging in the strategies that I spoke about today, it is important to remember to have patience and to treat others with kindness, no matter how frustrated you may get. You have to know that when it comes to teaching concentration or anything in general, it will not always be easy, and you may not see fast results because it's a process. So, like the verse says, make allowance for each other's faults. It's okay to make mistakes or for things to not be perfect. So, while you teach others, I provided you with a quick article that lists different strategies to stay in control of your emotion. It includes practices like how to breathe in stressful situations, meditation, and how to let the negative things go. Thank you so much for listening to my presentation. I hope you enjoyed. Bye.